Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Thursday, November 21st. Happy to have you in here for another episode of the program. We got Mike Malarkey firing shots. Firing shots. I love retirement Mike Malarkey just because I find it so refreshing when the coaches are just honest about things that happen, and it never happens in real time, nor would it ever make sense for people to air their dirty laundry. But every once in a while, one of these things, in fact, Mike Malarkey has made an appearance doing this before in some form or fashion. In fact, he opened them up to a Rooney Rule investigation not so long ago. So no love lost between the former Titans coach and team ownership, who he dunked on today with a story that we'll relay for you here in just a second. We'll do a little Who You Got Thursday Night Football, some Steelers and Browns in Cleveland this evening before we get to a bounce back at the end of the show, as is the custom. Good to have you guys in. Good to have you guys participate as always. Always appreciate when you share the show around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you're spending time with us. We appreciate your participation. Halo says staying warm. Yes, I am. I just came back from my girlfriend's sister's holiday party. So it was a bit chilly. They had the doors open. They had a DJ outside. I felt very bad for her, but she had a space heater over her. So fortunately, that was all good at the Botox place. You know, you gotta go for your free tox or your Botox specials. Anyway, staying warm. Hope you guys are too. Need you guys to share the show around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, wherever you are spending your time with us. We always appreciate it. If you're hanging out on Twitter, retweet the show, bottom right-hand corner of your screen, Facebook Live. You can share now to public like John Vargas, Kenneth Davidson. We appreciate when you all share this show. YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. If you haven't done so already and you're just now finding us, you're an insane person for seeking out Tennessee Titans content at 2 and 8. But God bless you, and we're happy to have you here if you are, in fact, new to the show. And if you would like to introduce somebody to the show, text it to a friend. Text it to 5 if you're feeling froggy. That can be your holiday present to me. I'll think about what I'm going to get you at some point in the near future. Anyway, share the show around. Let's get going. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by Zen Sports, the best place to bet. You can still get your bets in on Thursday Night Football with the promo code ATOZTN, up to $100 on your no danger first wager. By Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. And, of course, by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. TrueMathFitness.com. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Just the best workout out there at TrueMathFitness.com. All right. Mike Malarkey wants to smoke. Mike Malarkey's been retired for quite some time. Of course, the fired coach, former coach of the Tennessee Titans. Kenneth says, been a minute since I made it back to primetime. Well, it's delightful to see you here if you haven't been here in a while. Always good to have familiar faces who have been in and out of the lineup over the course of the last 5 years. Kind of crazy to think about. We've been doing primetime for 5 years. Either way, Mike Malarkey, he's been gone for more than 5 years at this point, but he's still got some petty left in the gas tank for the Tennessee Titans, and he made an appearance on Action Sports Jax. I'm unclear whether it's a radio station, a YouTube channel, maybe a little bit of both, perhaps a television show. I'm not sure, but Mike Malarkey's retired. He lives in Jacksonville. Obviously, he coached the Jags before he coached the Titans after becoming the interim, or I guess while becoming the interim, relieving Ken Whisenhunt of duty halfway through Marcus Mariota's rookie season, as Steve Lehman described it today on the 615 Sessions podcast. Lehman said they fired Ken Whisenhunt to save Marcus Mariota's life for how badly he was getting beat up as a rookie under Ken Whisenhunt. They did not allow that to continue. Malarkey got the interim job, and then Amy Adams-Strunk kept him around. And for those of you who don't remember how unceremoniously that ended, it was pretty testy at the end. And John Vargas says, I don't remember, Buck. Had Amy already taken over when he was there? Yes. Amy took over in I want to say it was the first season, or excuse me, she fired Whisenhunt in her first season as controlling owner, and then installed Malarkey as interim, and then hired Malarkey full time. So that would have been 2015. That was actually my first year in town, but that was before I was covering the Titans on an everyday basis. But that was Mariota's rookie year. There was a lot of things going on. It feels like 1,000 years ago at this point, but it was an interesting point in time because you had the lack of clarity around ownership with the Tennessee Titans. They've been in a hole for 2 years. I don't got to tell you guys, 5 games, 5 wins in 2 years, just terrible, terrible football at that time. And Whisenhunt was supposed to bring them out of it, but failed miserably, and they fired him halfway through his second year. The Malarkey thing starts. It sets a domino effect in motion that ends with, or that leads into Mike Vrabel and John Robinson really, and then Mike Vrabel. Success in the playoffs. Things petered out. Now we're in modern times where Brian Callahan has taken over, and the Malarkey regime, exotic smash mouth, feels like 1,000 years ago, or at least it does to me. But Mike Malarkey still got some heat for the Titans because he didn't like the way that it ended. And I'm going to explain to you why. I'm going to refresh for you why he doesn't like the way that it ended, or didn't like the way that it ended, and why he continues to take shots at this team here in just a second, right after I ask you your Two Rivers Ford take this evening. What was your reaction to Mike Malarkey, easy for me to say. What was your reaction to Mike Malarkey dunking on Titans ownership? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Bert, if you could correct the tweet at your earliest convenience, that would be appreciated. What was your reaction to the clip that I'm about to play? Maybe you haven't seen the clip just yet, and we'll get to that here in just a second. You can let me know at your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it's made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. All right, Mike Malarkey, what was your reaction to his appearance on Action Sports Jax? This was a portion of his interview that he did yesterday, I believe is when it aired.
The best thing I did there at the end, which I can now talk about, was when I got called in that Monday morning after the New England game. I knew they were going to fire me. So Sunday night, I called Ian Rappaport and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to break it to you. But I'm getting a new contract in the morning." And he reported it was all over the country. I was getting a contract in the morning, knowing that I was going to get fired. But I just wanted to see the faces on the owner and the GM who was out to get me. And I'm pretty sure I got him for a minute or two.
That's amazing.
That is awesome.
When I walked in the next morning, there wasn't a whole lot of conversation. It was like, you're done.
I love him so much for that. I think that's one of the funny. Now, here's what I'll say on the front end. It is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. It is also terrible to do to Ian Rappaport, and Mike Malarkey is clearly a petty individual. Clearly doesn't mind, ruffling some feathers or, just rattling some people's chains on the way out the door. And I'm looking, actually, somebody found it, or I'm sure Titans Twitter, the internet never forgets, went back and found the tweet that Mike Malarkey leaked, the fake tweet that Mike Malarkey leaked to Ian Rappaport. Sources: the Titans have offered Coach Mike Malarkey an extension in the wake of their playoff run. He's staying. And to Rapp's credit, he didn't delete it. I mean, that's from January 14th, 2018. Again, it feels like an eternity ago. And so Mike Malarkey, if you recall why he feels super sore, for lack of a better term, about the way things ended here, you got to remember how contentious that was down the stretch. Mike Malarkey is probably one of the more underrated coaches that this franchise has had. And there hasn't been a ton of coaches in the Titans era of football, right? You're just talking about Fisher, Munchak, Whisenhunt. You've got Malarkey, Vrabel, and now Callahan. I don't believe I'm missing anybody in that order. There's not been a lot of these dudes in 26 years of Titans football, but that's probably about on par for your average NFL team. And so Mike Malarkey's record with the Titans, pretty solid. The guy did a pretty good job after pulling them out of the hole that was the Ken Whisenhunt era and got them back-to-back winning seasons, had a plan that he thought was going to be successful. Many people felt like he had hit his ceiling. Exotic Smash Mouth was getting less and less exotic. DeMarco Murray's body was falling apart, and they kept playing him over Derrick Henry. Mike Malarkey had kind of a bad situation with Derrick Henry, or a bad interaction. I don't know if Derrick was a different person at the time. He was a younger player. I don't know if you recall Derrick Henry just like not being there for like voluntary, some OTA work that all the vets showed up. And there was this whole thing with Jarrell Casey saying, "Oh, now I know who I can trust." And he was just going back to Alabama to finish his degree. He just didn't tell anybody, which is, a very early stage Derrick Henry thing to do if you know anything about the guy. Pretty innocent, right? But just not necessarily processing all the consequences of, informing the necessary parties. Either way, so Mike Malarkey is getting pushed out, right? John Robinson's pushing him out. Amy Adams Strunk is on board with it. And they start leaking before that Jags winning in 17, right? They're going to beat the Jags, or they're going to play the Jags at home here in Nashville to go to the playoffs that year. Huge deal, because the Titans in playoffs, obviously unthinkable to think that they would find themselves in that position from so many years ago, or from so many years of just bad football, right? And so with that, they're going to push Mike Malarkey out at the end of the year. And it gets leaked to Ian Rappaport the day of the Jags game, about 2 hours, maybe not even 2 hours, maybe an hour before kickoff. Mike Malarkey, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the exact Rappaport tweet, but Rappaport is reporting that Mike Malarkey is likely to be fired if the Titans lose to the Jags that day. So this, the locker room knows about this. The coaching staff knows about this, that they are planning to fire him before they take the field in a critically, like, one of the most important games that the Titans had played to that point in God knows how long, right? A win and in for the playoffs at that point, even as a wild card with a team that, wasn't expected to do much, like, they could get in, and they did end up making some noise, so it did matter. And Mike Malarkey, pissed, understandably. They beat the Jags. They advanced to Kansas City. The same report comes out about Mike Malarkey is likely to be fired if the Titans lose to the Chiefs today. They beat the Chiefs. They go to Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. Jonathan Cyprien concusses the holy hell out of Travis Kelce. These are some of the best memories that I have covering the Titans, because it was the very start of my career, and I got here, guys, right at the come up. So, understandably, I'm having as hard a time as you are. Maybe not as hard a time as you are, but I'm having as hard a time as you are with how bad things have gotten from how much fun that ascent was, because that was a wild time to go back and think about. And so Jonathan Cyprien concusses the holy hell out of Travis Kelce. The Titans are dead in the water in the first half in Kansas City. They come back in that game, beat the Chiefs, and Mike Malarkey gives an all-time press conference after the fact, where he's asked just flatly, "Hey, Mike, are you feeling supported by ownership in the front office right now?" And he basically says, "No, very much not," and goes into all the different reasons, all the different things he's been dealing with these media reports, the axe looming over his neck the entire time for 3 straight weeks when he's taking the Titans on a playoff run. Titans hadn't won a playoff game in like 14 years at that point. It was insanity. And you understood why things were trending in that direction, because he just wouldn't get rid of Terry Robisky. They were boys. You respect it to an extent, but I mean, certainly it was something that ended up costing him his job. And plenty of people, by the way, would have fired Terry Robisky to save their own skins, even for the immediate shit. I mean, we see coaches doing it this year with what happened in Chicago. Matt Eberflus firing his offensive coordinator. And I mean, how much different are the Chicago Bears? I know they barely lost to the Green Bay Packers, but still. Ocho says maybe there's a reason he hasn't been a head coach since. Well, yeah, because he shit on the owner on the way out the door. Because he pantsed your ass, or your organization's ass, not your ass, on the way out the door, and said, "You know what? I'm not going to, give you guys double middle fingers, because I don't mean that. And I'm not going to butt Adams my way through the show." I was close, though. He's just going to, double middle fingers on the way out the door. I'm going to show you. You're going to fire me after what I've helped you do. Yeah, of course he's not going to work again in the NFL as a head coach. And he was a position coach. In fact, he was an interim head coach. I think the year that Dan Quinn got fired, Mike Malarkey was the tight ends coach in Atlanta. And I believe that year that he was then promoted to interim head coach again, the Mike Malarkey trajectory for all time. The Crooks process is, can you blame him, though? So now you know the story on all of that. Chosen says, Buck, is the rumor true that Malarkey only got fired because no, I mean, there's definitely more reasons there. They were working against him on a variety of different fronts. And I don't know all the levels of disagreement that they had, but it wasn't just Terry Robisky that got Malarkey canned. It was also the fact that he was going to be, kind of lighting them up on the way out the door. He's gotten them involved in a Rooney Rule investigation now, talking about the way that he was hired. And, now talking about the way that he dunked on them on the way out the door by leaking fake news to Rap Sheet.
The best thing I did there at the end, which I can now talk about, was when I got called in that Monday morning after the New England game. I knew they were going to fire me. So Sunday night, I called Ian Rappaport and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to break it to you. But I'm getting a new contract in the morning." And he reported it. It was all over the country. I was getting a contract in the morning, knowing that I was going to get fired. But I just wanted to see the faces on the owner and the GM who was out to get me. And I'm pretty sure I got him for a minute or two.
That's amazing.
That is awesome.
When I walked in the next morning, there wasn't a whole lot of conversation. It was like, you're done.
It's just such a great clip. Such a great clip. How about that? How about that for a line? The owner and the GM that were out to get me. So clearly no love lost between Amy Adams Strunk and Mike Malarkey. Clearly no love lost between John Robinson and Mike Malarkey, who then went on to, it was always a weird dynamic, right? A to Z Sports Primetime made possible by the wonderful people at TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMavFitness.com. Your first workout is free. As a Middle Tennessee resident, no workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMav Fitness will get you right. It is kind of unconventional the way that they went about that hire, right? Because that's Amy's first coaching hire, Mike Malarkey. She promotes him after canning Wisenhunt, and then puts him in the interim role, then promotes him to the full-time job, then hires John Robinson after hiring Mike Malarkey, which always seemed like an ill-fated proposition and ended up being, because after a while, John Robinson said, "No, my roster's better than your coaching staff is, and I think that we can do better." And then they went out and found Vrabel, and they ended up being right. Both things can be so. The Titans did Mike Malarkey dirty at the end, and Mike Malarkey probably should have been relieved of duty at that point. They had hit a bit of a wall. And, maybe you give a coach like him more time. I think that there were mixed emotions about him. I know people that played for him during that time. There were some that really loved him. Delaney Walker and Mike Malarkey were incredibly close. And I know that there were plenty of other players who just outright hated the dude. So I don't know. Maybe he was petty like that with players and stuff, because if he's willing to do that to an NFL owner, the dude, Mike Malarkey got some stones on him if he's willing to prank their ass like that. But damned if I don't respect it. I think that's awesome. So good for Mike Malarkey. I hope he's enjoying playing golf in Jacksonville. It's been a long time. Somebody made me laugh with a comment earlier. Clayton on YouTube, our team is so bad, the only thing to talk about is a former coach bashing us. LOL. Yes, that is correct. That is where we are at this point in the season. I hope you make things more interesting by beating the Houston Texans. I hope you win. I don't think I've ever said that. I don't think I've ever said that to you. I hope you win, just to give me something else to talk about, for God's sakes. But, also the Mike Malarkey thing, we would have done it anyway. It's pretty damn funny. So who you got Thursday night football between the Steelers and the Browns? Browns in a similar situation as you. We talked about coaching staffs most likely to get fired right now on the radio show, and Stefanski feels like a bit of a fall guy for the owner's terrible decisions at the quarterback position. But right now it is tied, no points on the board, 3-3, and 3. Russell Wilson just got dropped for a sack by Myles Garrett, who is an absolute game wrecker. Looks like it's snowing a little bit in Cleveland, which makes me sad. I don't like to see snow. It means cold weather is here, which you can feel outside of Nashville, but Myles Garrett just collapsing another left tackle and driving the guy right back into Russell Wilson there. Who you got between the division-leading Steelers, who undid Robert Walsh's Ravens? I think we can talk about that a week later as I get my Bud Adams salute in the background. What, you didn't want to do that on camera? Coward. Oh, sad boy. Sad Ravens boy. You should have seen the way that he was pouting on Sunday night. It was, I felt bad for him in real time, but now that we are several days removed, I can make fun of him and he'll have to deal with it. Because Dan Orlovsky said that the Steelers aren't a top 3 team in the AFC today. He was on First Take. He got dragged by J.J. Watt, who said that is akin to the sports media version of running out of the back of your own end zone, which made me laugh. It is a very cruel joke. It is a very tired joke, but it's still funny when people make it, unfortunately for Dan. And Dan's always a great sport about it. But he said, Orlovsky said that you can't beat the Chiefs or the top powers in the AFC kicking field goals when they literally just, and also because Justin Tucker's having some difficulties right now, they beat the Ravens by kicking field goals in that game. In fact, Mike Tomlin said after the fact that he's tired of Chris Boswell, their kicker, winning AFC Player of the Week because the line was, it reminds us of our warts, which is a hilarious line and an accurate one, and why we all love Mike Tomlin in that spot. So it's a pretty tough, just a week removed from having that game go down for the Steelers. A tough line, I think, for Dan in particular. I get where he's coming from relative to the rest of the AFC. I would pick the Ravens 9 times out of 10 in a game against the Steelers right now as presently constructed. I just happen to think, any of the top teams can get got by the other ones on any given night. And that's kind of what the Titans are missing, right? They are not a part of that. There's so much disparity in the league this year that it feels like the gap between the competitors and the non-factors has never been greater than it has been in the last, I won't say decade. I feel like there's never been so many bad, actively bad 2 and 3 win teams, this many at this point, even 12 weeks in. But who you got? I would take the Steelers just because, it's still a suspect quarterback situation in Pittsburgh, though I'm sure, I don't know who do you root for between the Steelers and the Browns? Do you want them just both to get sucked into the surface of the earth, Dark Knight Rising style, or was that the right movie, Dark Knight Rising? I think that's right.
For me, it's whoever I need to lose.
Put a turtleneck on?
No, it's just tight. I'm just got a fat neck.
Okay.
I kind of root for whoever I need to lose. I need the Steelers to lose. I'm hoping the downtrodden Browns can do something against them, make them feel the pain. 4 days of rest. It's cold as hell. It's their second AFC North game of the year. I just need the Browns to put a little hurting on them, soften them up for the guys in the upcoming weeks. But generally, the Bengals, as long as the Bengals are losing, I don't give a I can cuss here. I don't give a shit. But the Steelers, I have respect for the Steelers. I respect their process, the way they put their teams together. I just hate them. You know what I mean? I got no respect for the Browns or the Bengals. Just trash.
No,
Bottom feeder trash.
I feel the same way about Purdue. I have great respect for Purdue. I hate their guts. I hope they lose every game until the end of time, but I also respect them because they are always in basketball. Obviously, football, I don't care. And Indiana runs their shit this year, or will. So,
and by the way, now he wants to miss a kick. Now this dude wants to miss a kick. He was perfect last week. 4 days later, now all of a sudden he decides he wants to miss. You couldn't have missed one of them.
All right, he's going to just keep ranting and raving in the background at this point. Look at him. He's seething. I can see the steam rolling out of his ears. For the sake of the show, we'll keep it moving. Save for the Ravens, Bert, says Seth Paragon. Anyway, with this game, I would pick the Steelers. I think that they are simply the better football team. It would be fun to see Jameis Winston win a snow game. This man looks so uncomfy in AFC North football. This is not, Jameis Winston has played football in the elements before, but it's just, he makes me laugh. He makes me happy. I wish he was here as the backup. Mason Rudolph, I like him just fine. He's a quality human being, and a solid backup quarterback. But at least if they're going to be 2-8 the way that the Browns are, at least let's have Jameis Winston to keep us entertained on a weekly basis. Patriot Funding Solution says Steelers miss was scripted. Honest to God, sometimes you can almost convince me. You can almost convince me, even as somebody who works in the league or works in the league, as we watch Titans legend Jack Conklin work up against TJ Watt. Hold him up pretty well. Couldn't use Jack Conklin. Could use a right tackle like Jack Conklin these days, but that's revisionist history, and that just seems cruel to do. So I'll take the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. A to Z Sports Prime Time made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com. Get your dream address without the stress. Get the intel edge you need to succeed at GaryAshton.com. Speaking of which, Bert did provide us with this. The Steelers have never won a road divisional Thursday night football game. They are 0-7 all time and 0-5 under Mike Tomlin. Tomlin is 2-8 on the road on Thursday night football. It's a batshit crazy. I guess it's not a stat as much as it's a fact, but that's just an insane piece of NFL trivia. Streaks like that exist, right? Like the Colts not winning in Jacksonville since 2014, the NFL's most embarrassing streak, or the Titans not having, this is a little more recent, but still a smaller sample size. The Titans haven't won back-to-back home games since October of 22. I was a much younger man then. The bad football had aged me much less than since October of 2022. It has been more than 2 calendar years since this football team has won back-to-back games, which is a stat that just continues to smack you in the face every time you think they find something here in the last couple of years. And God knows this year a little different, but I think that in total, there is a lot to like about the Steelers. I'm going to trust Mike Tomlin more often than not, though teams are doing a much better job with Russ. He's taken a lot more sacks if you've been watching him. And they have been doing a better job just taking away George Pickens as opposing defenses. They've been really able to adjust. And, all NFL teams do. The Steelers are good enough, I think, to figure it out, even if they have a come back to earth moment. This is, bad teams are entitled to win football games. 2-8 Browns are entitled to win a football game, as are the Titans against the Houston Texans. This would be a similar situation. Division loser, lucky for you, they're still the Jags. The Jags are terrible. I saw a clip of Pat McAfee playing snippets of Doug Peterson's press conferences, and they are so bad, so cringy, so sad. I hate it for him. I hope he at least gets to keep his job to the end of the year, just because the in-season stuff could be hard. But honestly, at this point, he's probably like, I don't know, let's just get it over with. I think that there is a lot to like about the Browns, or a lot to like about the Browns defense in particular. The quarterback situation obviously remains suspect. Who needs to bounce back most in sports this week? We'll talk about it together. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you want to get involved there, who needs to bounce back most in sports? Perhaps it's the Titans, if you feel so inclined. While you do that, I'll remind you, Primetime is made possible by Zen Sports, who has the big game sweepstakes going on right now. Your opportunity to win 2 tickets to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans this year. 3HL is for sure going to be there. I have not talked to anybody about going to the Super Bowl this year, so I assume I'm not going to the Super Bowl this year, which is fine. I don't mind. I'll take the week off. But with everything going on, Zen Sports has your opportunity to attend the Super Bowl in New Orleans, which is going to be a kick-ass Super Bowl city. They always do it really, really well, and it's just a fun city in general. Who don't want to go to New Orleans? Or cash prizes as well. Go to zensports.com. Every dollar that you bet counts for an entry, and parlays count for double at Zen Sports. So go to zensports.com. Terms and conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet at Zen Sports. Who needs to bounce back most in sports this weekend? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Eddie Lacy telling a funny story about tricking Mike McCarthy into thinking that he was watching film when he was really, you'll hear from him.
And I asked Eddie's permission while we were off air to tell this story on air because he told it off the record. Let me be very clear to everybody listening. And, he told this story because we're watching pregame for Cowboys-Texans on Monday Night Football here at Potawatomi Sportsbook. And Mike McCarthy popped on the screen. Mike McCarthy, obviously Eddie's coach for his entire time in Green Bay. I will be very clear. The statute of limitations has expired. Take it away.
All right. We were talking about earlier as far as my life being compartmentalized from work and off work, and how when I'm off of work, what I like to do is play video games and watch cartoons. Well, what I didn't know is that the coaches had the ability to see our iPad usage and how much film we're watching outside of the building. So coach called me into his office and he asked me about my iPad usage. He said, how much you use your iPad? And I was like, every day when I'm in the building. And so he says, how much do you use it at home? And I was like, and he was like, 0. And so
he already knew the answer before you answered.
He knew the answer. Yeah.
But you didn't try to lie to him though either.
Oh, I didn't lie. I was like, and then he was like 0. And so he pretty much fussed at me. And but the thing is, like I said, outside of football, like when I get home, like football is no longer a priority. So James comes up to me and he's like, bro, it's not a big deal. Like,
James Starks,
James Starks. He comes up to me, he's like, bro, it's not a big deal. Like when you're at home, do whatever you normally do. Just turn the iPad on and pick a video, pick a long one preferably, and just make sure the light stays on. So long story short, my iPad usage went from 0 to 100%. I watch film all day.
But what you were saying was that, your lack of film study at home was not affecting your play on the field, right?
Oh, no, not at all. I knew what I needed to know. I knew everything about who was playing. I knew everything about whatever blitzes, their, disguises. I knew everything, but like I just wasn't a guy who, like, once I leave from work, go home to work. Like I'm going home to relax and, unwind.
That's a good friend, James Starks, right there.
Oh, 100%. Because I would have been like freaking out at home. I'm like, I want to watch TV. I don't want to watch an iPad. Like I just watched the iPad for the last 8 hours. But yeah, sit next to me and play Call of Duty.
So Mike McCarthy never called you into his office again.
I've never been up there again.
Mike McCarthy not noticing that it just goes from 0% to 100% overnight for an extended period of time. And I know Lacy's career did not go well, and you could probably question his work ethic there in that clip as much as you could question Mike McCarthy's awareness of what was going on there. But just a bad look all around. Also, many of you nominating NPF. Nicholas Petit-Frere needing a bounce back. Roy L. Wright says the NFL refs need a bounce back. I agree on all fronts. Perhaps some will, perhaps none will, perhaps all will. Who's to say? We'll find out on Thursday night. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy Thursday night football, and I will talk to you tomorrow. We'll do the radio show tomorrow from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. We'll have Coach Mack. I don't know what else we have planned. I want to say that we have another guest. Let me double check for you. Real quick. No, just a lot of college football talk because it should be a fun college football weekend, and we'll talk Titans Texans. Be a good time. Mac will be on. Have a great rest of your night. If I don't talk to you next, have a great weekend, and we'll do primetime from Houston on Sunday. See you guys.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville. Go home!